What's going on, everybody? Ben Morgan, Fins Up Network. We've got an explosive, shifty, exciting, outright fun running back prospect to watch in today's NFL draft player profile, and that's Tulane running back Tyjae Spears. Now, think back a couple of months. Spears broke onto the scene with that Senior Bowl performance, the talk of the practices. We wanted to say, hey, follow it up with a solid combine. Did the same damn thing as well. So I looked at the NFL mock draft database to see where he's coming off the board. They currently have him as the consensus running back 7, being the 7th running back off the board, kind of going in that 3rd to 4th round range. So definitely a guy that the Miami Dolphins could target if they want to pursue a running back at that point in the draft, because we got a 2nd, a 3rd, a 6th, and a 7th. But we could also potentially maybe trade back, get some additional draft capital, still land a running back, because there are some mock draft simulators out there, have them coming off the board more in that 5th round range. But keep in mind, this is a very inexact science. Have you ever tried to predict a mock draft or an NFL draft? Pretty damn hard, especially those mid to late round guys. So we're working with what we've got. But that's what we're going to end up doing today, talking some strengths, some weaknesses, some fit with the Miami Dolphins. So let's jump right into Tyjae Spears. And I tell you what, there's a common theme for the running backs I've been paying the most attention to this offseason, and that's being a guy that I think can succeed at the NFL level in a zone blocking scheme. And that's exactly what Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins are doing. You watch his tape, that explosiveness, that ability to create after contact, to break tackles, it jumps off the screen. And you see there, he's only 5'10", 201. It doesn't matter. He has got the shiftiness. He can elude people. He can break tackles. He's got a lot of good things going on for him in that department. Really good acceleration, explosion once he's through that hole. We know in the zone blocking scheme, find your hole and go. That's exactly what he does. He's got that home run hitting, that chunk yardage playability. Perfect fit in an offense that's already kind of littered with those type of playmakers. I mean, the ones we have are mostly on the outside, Waddle, Hill, but Mostert's kind of one of those guys as well. Big play, very fast, home run hitting type of guys, but just another guy that you could add to that mix and have another chess piece. When it comes to trying to get the ball into the hands of a playmaker, he's just another guy that fits that mold. Good vision, elusive, just an exciting player with the ball in his hands. And that's the kind of stuff, like I said, that we saw on display during the Senior Bowl. He was the talk offensively anyway. During the majority of those practices, he was just showing off moves, the explosiveness, the shiftiness, just dropping guys, breaking ankles. Definitely made a little bit more of a name for himself during that Senior Bowl week. When you look at him as a pass-catching running back, he didn't really get like an overwhelming amount of receptions while he was at Tulane, but he did pretty damn good with the reps that he got. So I don't have too many worries there. Essentially, end of the day, he's a guy you want to find ways, get him the ball in space, let him create. And what does that sound like? It kind of sounds like a match made in heaven for a guy like Mike McDaniel. You know he loves his playmakers. If you look at what would be maybe considered a weakness, the only huge knock for me, and it's not maybe not even huge, he's a bit slender. 5'10", 201. He does look small out there. So maybe you've got some questions that arise when it comes to durability or potential of being a lead back in the NFL. But if you're drafting him in the 4th, 5th round, he's likely more suited as a complementary piece and a running back by committee anyways. So like I said, just feels like a nice added piece that gives more playmaking, more diversity to your backfield. Now, he did tear his ACL in 2020, but being in 2023, we're now about 3 years removed from that. Had a strong 2021 campaign, bounced back huge in 2022. Very impressive campaign last year at Tulane. Averaged over 6.8 yards per carry over the course of his collegiate career. So like I said, explosive, big playability is obviously there. Not super worried about any previous injuries. If you look at his fit with the Dolphins, if he's drafted by the Dolphins, I sort of see him basically how I would regardless of where he's drafted. And that's a role as a complementary piece in a running back by committee, but a guy that, you know what, if everything goes well in the offseason in regards to learning the playbook and picking up the nuances of the position, he is a guy that coaches, whether it's the Dolphins or any other team, you want to get him on the field. You want to get the ball in his hand and let him create. And I know we brought all the guys back What do we brought back? The 2022 running back room. Mostert, Wilson, Ahmed, Gaskin. And to be fair, I'd be cool right now. The fact that we have those 4 running backs, if we were to wait and end up drafting a guy like Spears, I don't mind that. If this ends up not being the class or the year, the off season where we get our bell cow, I would be completely fine with adding Spears to that mix as well, because maybe he's not going to get a lot of run right away. It's going to be Mostert. It's going to be Wilson, but it's not going to take the coach as long to be like, we saw this guy in training camp. We saw him in the offseason. We saw him at the Senior Bowl. We saw him in preseason games. He is a guy that's dynamic with the ball in his hands, and they will likely try to find and manufacture ways to get him the ball in space, especially a creative mastermind on offense like Mike McDaniel. So there it is, some strengths, some weaknesses, some fit with the Dolphins. But Dolphins fans, if you have any thoughts on Tyjae Spears, go ahead, drop them in the comments. Curious to see what your take is on the Tulane running back as well. That's what I've got for Spears. And until next time, Dolphins fans, fins up.